There we are. Hello, hello, good evening. It's Monica from Life is Art, and this is the second live crafting demo during the March-April catalog launch party. And sorry, there was a delay there because I couldn't get the video to start on the side, and that happens sometimes. And then I'll give everybody a couple seconds to find the link and click on through to the YouTube live. I see Joanne has already found it and joined us. Good evening, Joanne. And so we're looking at our March-April catalog that just launched today, and we are having fun. We've looked through the catalog. We've already created a layout from the catalog. Now we're going to create a card from this catalog. And we are going to be looking at the second collection in the catalog, which is Let's Go Anywhere. It's a lovely travel type of collection, but it can also be used for lots of other things. So don't think that it has to be limited to travel. And we're actually going to create this card that's on the opener here. And so I'm going to get my card to the side here, or my catalog to the side. And we're going to scooch over here a little bit. We're going to have to wait for the video to catch up a little bit. But there we go. Oh, I got hiccups. Should always get hiccups right when you're about to do a live video. And, that's just how it is sometimes. Okay, so we're going to be creating this card, and we're going to start out with a card base. This is one of our White Daisy value pack card bases. It comes with envelopes. They come pre-scored. These end up being 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, which is the standard size, or an A2 size card. So I've been informed. And when you're folding something that's been scored, you want to fold it with the bump side to the inside. Just make sure everything lines up lovely. And then, of course, you can crease it down. Just like that. Now, in this collection, we have some gorgeous patterns and things that are happening. And also, instead of White Daisy as the sort of neutral pale color in the collection, it's actually French vanilla, which is really lovely. Gives it sort of a little old world charm. And so the first thing that we want to add to this is a piece of the pattern paper from the Let's Go Anywhere collection. And it's this very lovely tone-on-tone sapphire that has a tiny little stitch detail on it. And it looks like a tiny little pinstripe, but that's actually lines of stitching. And so this has been cut to 4 inches by 5 1/4. And we're just going to go ahead and adhere that to our card base. Now, if you notice on the back, we have that gorgeous Jade pattern paper that we were coming up with all sorts of ideas of what it could be used for. It could be crackly glass. It could be mosaics. It could be leather. So many fun things, but technically it's sort of like a topographical or street map, a street map. And so we're going to center this on our card, this 4 inch by 5 1/4 piece of pattern paper, and just lay that down like that. Then we're going to come in with a piece of French vanilla that has been cut to 3 1/2 by 4 3/4. If you're joining me live, just say hello or howdy so I know you're here. And if you're watching later on replay, you can say replay. I should have mentioned that just like I do when I create layouts from a pattern that doesn't have any instructions, I create a ruler like I did for the previous video, but I also do it for cards, and you want something that ends up being the width of your card. So you just lay your piece of paper on your magazine or on your phone or on your tablet screen, and you're going to cut a piece of paper that's the width, and we know that that has to be 4 1/4 if it's a standard size card. So then what I do is I fold it in half, but not exactly in half. I kind of guess in by golly. I leave a little extra hanging off the end for that 1/4 inch measurement. And the more you do it, the more you get so that you know the measurements. And then you're going to fold this piece in half again, and that's going to give you the 1 inch, 2 inch, 3 inch, 4 inch, and then you can mark the 1/2 inches in between or the 1/4 inches, however much you want. And then I also like to check the other direction. So I laid this down here on my card going the opposite way, and I marked at the 4-inch mark. There's a little tiny dot of pen right there. And then I shifted my ruler up, and sure enough, it went to 5.5, just like that. We added another 1.5 to our 4-inch. So my ruler was accurate. Sometimes you have to be a little bit careful because in catalogs, they can kind of skew the sizes a little bit when they're shrinking and enlarging to fit things in. So sometimes even a 12 by 12 layout will be kind of one measurement one way and then a little bit different the other way. But you take your best guess, right? Now this piece of French vanilla that's 3.5 by 4 3/4, we're going to do just the tiniest little bit of inking around the edge. I've got my Shortbread ink here, and I'm just gonna get some ink on my sponge. This has got many colors on there, but it has been washed. And I'm just doing a tiny little bit of inking around the edge. It doesn't have to be too much. It's just for a little bit of old world charm and effect that we're doing this. So just a little bit. Just a little bit. Got a song in my head now. There we go. Just that little bit of inking that you're going to see that come back out in a minute. And so there we go. We've got our French vanilla. We've inked it up. Now there's no dark side, light side to French vanilla. It's like white daisy and black. It's the same on both sides. So you don't have to worry about that. We can go ahead and adhere that down in the center of our card. Now on this card, there probably should be foam tape on a few of the layers, but like I said with when I was doing the layout, you can do it flat, which saves you potentially a little bit in postage. Hey Heather, nice to see you're watching. Because if you get too bulky in the mail, they sometimes ding you extra postage for the thickness, but also because I don't have any foam tape at the moment. I haven't gone shopping for it. I haven't ordered any. So it is what it is. Then we're going to bring in a couple little pieces of this tiny, tiny little grid pattern. And I could have put an entire strip from top to bottom, but I like to save my paper because I want to make more cards and more layouts. And so I tend to just use enough. You know, sometimes I go for the whole piece and sometimes I go for just enough. So these two pieces have been cut to 2.25 by 1/2 inch. And we're going to center them on our card. So let me see if we center here on there, then this should be right about there. And it's lined up with the top of the blue and stuck down like that. So that is centered at the top. It's on top of the blue and on top of the vanilla, but not on the white daisy card base. And then we're going to do the same thing at the bottom. We're going to center it. I'm using my Versamat grid lines to help me do that. And that takes a lot of the guessing and begollying out of things, although I do that a lot too. Our next layer that we're adding on here is a piece of shortbread. It always makes me hungry when we talk about shortbread. And I'm actually going to use the light side of the shortbread for this project. And we need to do some work to this. We are going to add some stamping first off. And I need to grab a scrap piece of paper. Look at that. It's a really scrappy piece of paper. It's coming straight out of my recycle bin. This is where I cut my rulers out of for the layout in the card. But that works. And I could also use my all-purpose mat, but it's way over there, and so we're going to use this. I'm going to bring in my shortbread again for this, and I'm also going to bring in my stamp set. This is the Let's Go Anywhere card making stamp set that has all these fun things, and the one that I want from here are these 2 arrows, and those are actually one stamp, and we're going to use them to create a border at the top and bottom. So I've got it loaded up here on my block. We're going to ink it up. Now on the top, the arrows are going to the right, and at the bottom, they're going to the left. So I'm going to do the bottom first, and I'm just going to start stamping at one side. I'm going to stamp off the edge and then just work my way across. Because they're staggered, you can kind of tuck the one end in under the other and work your way across. If they're not even, don't panic. You know, they can be a little jiggledy-joggledy. It's no worries. Nobody will mind. There we go. And we'll just keep stamping our way. I'm going to do a couple rows of these little arrows. I think that's super cute for this travel collection to have these arrows like that. And then we're going to do the top one, and this time the arrows are pointed the other way, but if I turn it around and stamp it the exact same way I did that one, the arrows will be pointing the way I want them to go. See how that happens? Love it when a plan comes together. So we can just go ahead, stamp, stamp, stamp. These clear blocks and clear stamps make this process much easier. Now, this is one of those stamps where you don't want to push too hard when you're stamping down, because these are very fine little lines. And if you push too hard on a stamp, which I do sometimes, especially alphabets, because you want to make sure that the ink transfers. If you push too hard, then actually those tiny, tiny little bits will kind of flop over to the side a little bit. The pressure makes them just kind of bend, and then you get a smooch. If you ever stamp something and part of it looks nice and then part of it's kind of smooched, like you either shifted it or you just kind of jostled it a little bit. Quite often when it's something really fine like this, the problem is that you've actually pushed too hard in one spot, and those little tiny little bits of acrylic have just sort of flopped over. You know when things flopping over. All right, and then we're going to come in. We're actually going to come in again with the shortbread, and this time we're going to ink our edges all the way around this, and we're going to ink them a little bit more, kind of using the flat of our sponge to come in quite a bit from the edge. We want to add a lot of texture onto this piece of shortbread. So we're going to kind of wipe across the front. We could even dab at the front if we want to add a little extra texture. We're kind of making it look aged. I do usually try when I'm using a sponge, instead of just always stamping in the middle, I kind of try to travel around with my sponge daubing, so that I'm not always picking up ink from one spot. Because if you always pick up ink from one spot, you might find that one spot gets a little less inky. And so there we go. We have now kind of dabbed it on there and made it look a little bit distressed, a little weathered, a little aged. And that's the look we're going for. Stick that back in the recycle bin. All ready for the next time we need it. Now this piece should probably rightly be popped up with foam tape, but it's not going to be. It will survive. We're going to just stick it down. But if you're making this and you want to add foam tape, this is a good spot to do it. So again, this is from page 17 in the March-April catalog. baked shortbread. Yes, we're baking our shortbread. So we're going to center this on top of our white daisy, and our little pattern paper should be tucked in underneath on both ends. I kind of didn't quite get that centered. I was a little too low. Let's try that again. Don't you just love it when you have to stick something down 3 times? I'm doing it again. There we go. That's better. Okay. And then we need to do some stamping. We've got that gorgeous big heart from this card making Let's Go Anywhere stamp set. I love this heart. That was what sold me on this stamp. I've got it loaded up in my stamp platform. I have seasoned it because it's a new stamp, and we're going to use Jade ink to stamp this. And I've put it in my platform because this is a nice big solidy-ish stamp, and I want to make sure that I get as good of coverage as I can with my ink. So with the stamp platform, you have the opportunity to stamp more than once and hopefully have it stamp in the right spot. So we've got our white daisy tucked down in the corner here. Is that white daisy? I think it's white daisy. It might be the French vanilla, actually. No, it is white daisy. Second guessing myself. I knew what I was wanting to say, and then I didn't say it. So now I can see that there's a few spots that need a little extra. This is a brand new stamp, first time using it, so there may have been spots that weren't as well seasoned. You never know. And that's why we like our stamp platform for doing this. One thing I like to do is put tissue under my hand, because then my hand can rub around. They sell tools for that too, but you know. That seems just as easy. There we go. And we can take our stamp chamois and clean off our stamp chamois and our stamp chamois holder. Look at that. Cleaning a stamp. Whew. There we go. And we can take that off. Just walk it off. It's stuck on there good because it's a new stamp. After a while, stamps stick a little less. And when you want to make them more sticky again, all you got to do is just wash them off under running water. And that helps kind of revive them. If you're doing that in your sink, you want to make sure that you put a colander or something in your sink so that if you drop your stamp, it doesn't disappear, never to be found again. You don't want it going down the drain. So sad. All right, so now we've got our heart, and I did not buy the stamp set with the thin cuts. So you know what that means. We're going to give a rough cut first, and then we're going to do our best imitation of a thin cut and cut ourselves out a heart. Now, that's not always the easiest thing to cut, so we'll just kind of take our time and do our best. We're going to leave a nice big halo, and we're just going to, you know how when you're driving a car, you're not supposed to look at the line right beside you? You're supposed to look down the road at the line that's coming towards you. That's kind of what you want to do with trying to do this kind of fussy cutting where there's no exact line to follow. And you know what? The person who receives your card is not going to get out a measuring tape and say, that heart wasn't cut evenly. They're not going to do that. They're going to say, look at this beautiful card that somebody made me. And they will be happy that you sent them a beautiful card. Okay, so there is our heart. And I'm just trying to determine, I think they probably inked the edges of this heart as well. So let's grab that shortbread. Why not? There's nothing saying we can't. Let's ink everything. It's one of those things. Once you start inking, you kind of just got to go with it. Just keep inking. And we did use white daisy, so it will show up as a little brighter than the French vanilla anyway. So a little bit of dulling on the edges doesn't hurt. But I think having the white daisy really helps that jade ink pop. It really does look, I think, nicer on the white. That's just a personal opinion. It's not necessarily everybody's opinion. So then I'm going to go ahead and stick this down. Again, this would probably be pop dotted, possibly with thin foam tape. That's one thing I like about our foam tape is we have the option between the regular size and the thin. I'm going to use my, I don't want to bend my heart all out of shape trying to get the backing off. I'm just going to use my piercing tool to lift that. When you got a big piece of paper, you can just kind of bend it a little bit, but my little heart, I don't want to bend my heart. Alrighty, so we're going to add this on here. Just going to kind of make it even from side to side, but I think it is a little lower than center. So there's our cute little heart. Oh my goodness, it looks so cute. And then we've got the You Mean the World to Me across here. So I have cut a piece of French vanilla that is 3 3/4 by 1/2 inch. And we're going to go ahead and stamp that. And I think it was stamped in the Sapphire. So I've got my Sapphire ink here. Nice and juicy. Look at that. And we're going to make sure it's seasoned. We're going to make sure we ink it up good. And I'm going to bring this down close to me. Hopefully you can still see that. Just so I can line it up in the center. And again, because this is smallish letters, I don't want to push too hard. Wow, that worked well. That came out lovely. I like it when that happens. And then we can, oops, go ahead and wash that off. I suppose if I put that down flat, that would be a good idea. A bunny day, just like Easter. All right. Putting away our ink before we make a mess. And why not? Let's ink. Let's ink. There might even be enough ink on here already. Let's just give it a little touch. Just to say we did. Sometimes when you've been inking, there's just enough to do a little smidgen of inking. All right, let's grab our adhesive. And again, this could be popped up, although I think it was only popped on the ends and then probably flat across the heart. So that just kind of gives you an indication of what you would do if you were trying to pop it up with some foam tape. And I'm going to use my tweezers for this. I want it kind of centered from side to side and down a little bit like that. Looks good. And then we've got some stickers here to put on. So let's grab our sticker sheet from the Let's Go Anywhere collection. It's a gorgeous sticker sheet. The first thing we need is this arrow and this little stitched heart right here in the toffee. And so we're going to kind of use these two pieces together. So I'm gonna by guess and by golly with two hands here. And so this one is a little bit off the edge. This one is right about there. So my heart needs to be right about there-ish. And then this one is there. And then we have this other little sticker that actually has a teeny tiny little globy world on there. Isn't that super cute? And then this can just layer on top, again using my tweezers to help me out with this. We're going to layer it on top of that. It's going to go over top of the sentiment a little bit, over top of the toffee stitched heart, over top of the scarlet arrow. And then we also have a couple of pieces from the die cuts, the Let's Go Anywhere die cuts. So there is tan paperboard in here, as well as black paperboard. And we want to use a couple of the X's And I think we're going to use these little ones. I might actually use my tweezers to help me pop those out. There's 1 and 2. That one was pretty much falling out. And for these, we're going to do the little trick that I like to do where I take a tiny little bit of this glue, put it on my hand in an out-of-the-way place where it's not going to get on anything. And then we're going to put these on like X's instead of pluses. We're going to tap it in the glue, tap it off the glue, and then we can go ahead and stick it on right on the edge like that. And by tapping in the glue and tapping off the glue, we have less glue on there so it doesn't go smushy everywhere. We don't want smushy. We just want pretty. So I'm just going to wipe that glue off. And look how quickly that card came together. So we started out with our White Daisy card base value pack, and then we added in this gorgeous Sapphire tone-on-tone pattern paper from the Let's Go Anywhere collection. Then, of course, our French vanilla with a bit of the Shortbread inking. We've got our lovely little teeny tiny grid, which is perfect. These are perfect patterns for a card design because they're so tiny. And then our piece of shortbread, the light side of the shortbread that we stamped with the arrows going to the right and to the left. Did some lovely inking and then dabbing all over it to really give it an aged look. We stamped in Jade to create our heart, and we did some fussy cutting, although you can buy the stamp set with the die. Then we stamped up in Sapphire our sentiment on that piece of French vanilla, did a tiny little bit of inking on there as well, layered up with some stickers, and then our beautiful black die cuts for embellishment. And I love how that card came together, and it's a lovely sentiment. And as we are thinking about how Close to My Heart is coming to a close in June, and all the makers like myself will be retired as of April the 30th. I just want to reiterate that all of you mean the world to me. You have made this experience with Close to My Heart amazing, and we're not coming to an end for our crafty community on here. We're going to continue with our YouTube videos and the Facebook page, and we're going to continue with all the events as usual, and we will see where our journey takes us. And so I will be back on at 9:30 for one more crafting video. So you've got about half an hour, 40 minutes. And I'm going to post a few more things as well. If you're putting in an order, you'll want to do that before midnight tonight to get in on the $10.95 shipping savings that I'm offering from me to you. And yeah, so you'll want to check out the Cardstock Carnival that started today, all the new goodies from the Mar-Apr Catalogue, and also check out clearance because there's always good stuff to get in there. All right, we will see you shortly. See you at 9:30. See you then. Toodaloo. Bye.